Welcome back, Daily FaB Gamers. I'm Lupinefiasco, and I want to start today's video by sharing how the Codex Journal is improving my in-person play, and how it can improve yours too. I was given my first journal a few weeks before flying to London for the Pro Tour, which was convenient timing, considering that my testing would be done in person. It's easy to perform my style of analysis on a computer, and the journal immediately jumped out to me as a great analog for when I only have pen and paper. I was concerned that it wouldn't arrive in time for my trip, as the company is based in the UK and I live in the US, so imagine my surprise when a package showed up not even a week later. When you order your Codex Journal, they will print and ship it from the closest available location to you, saving time and reducing shipping costs. I test drove my journal by taking it to my weekly armory. Every other page of the journal is a life pad. For those of you who prefer to track life totals by hand like I do, you'll love the convenience of having your life pad and notes bound together. The journal got me to think about aspects of the game that I don't normally consider. For how many turns did the game last, how many cards were left in my deck, and even what my remaining life total was at the end of the game. What I love most about the journal is how it would prompt my opponents to reflect on the game with me. Don't get me wrong, I gave a few beatdowns that first day and not everyone was eager to talk about it, but I also had some good conversations prompted by the journal. What were some standout moments, surprises, errors, and notable decisions from the game? How did I feel after the game? What's something that I would do differently? And what were my general takeaways to strengthen my approach in the next match? I find this to be much more helpful than simply asking myself, how do I think that went? The next stop for my journal was Pro Tour London. I recorded my thoughts, reflections, and conclusions after every game I played during the PT and calling, which many of you have heard in that subsequent tournament recap. The difference in the level of detail that I can retain by immediately capturing the highs and lows of a game on paper, rather than by attempting to remember them on video even a few minutes later, is astounding. That does more than just improve the quality of my videos. The level of minutia that I can capture with my journal has really helped me hone my play, even over just this past month. The same small mistakes would lose me multiple games over multiple events, and being able to capture them as they happen and immediately reflect on the correct line is invaluable. From London to the top 4 of the Battle Hardened in Santa Clara to 2 ProQuest wins this season, my Codex Journal has accompanied me on a journey of continual improvement and success. It facilitates the same level of analysis and introspection that I perform in my daily FaB gameplay videos, effectively doubling the number of games that I can truly learn and improve from. Capturing my positive and negative sideboard and gameplay decisions in the moment is how I tighten and optimize my gameplay in the future to literally take down paper events and walk away with that shiny cardboard, and now you can too. In short, the Codex Journal is a great way to track the sorts of things that I analyze in my daily FaB gameplay videos. How detailed my game plan is against a given hero, what decisions stick out to me during and after a game, and the conclusions I can draw from all that. It asks poignant questions that invite reflection and growth, and it fits in any bag or backpack. Now I take it to every event I plan and make notes after every game. If you're the sort of player who wants to tighten and optimize their gameplay in the future to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny cardboard, please click my affiliate link in the video description below and be sure to use code LUPINE10, that's LUPINE10, at checkout to receive a 10% discount on your order. Now, on with the gameplay. Welcome back, Crackle Addicts. I'm Lupinefiasco, this is Daily FaB Gameplay, and today we're playing Arakni Slipped Through the Cracks. What we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my games. I'll talk through turn cycles and give my thoughts on the lines I would take now, comparing them to the lines I took then at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns, with the goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny cardboard. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see every new episode of Daily FaB gameplay in your video feed. You can find a FaB link to the deck list I'm playing here in the video description below. You'll also find a link to my Patreon. Subscribers at the Arc Lightning tier and higher will get access to my matchup guides for this deck and all my decks forever. Want to tighten and optimize your gameplay in real life? Use my affiliate link in the video description to buy your very own Codex Journal, and be sure to use code LUPINE10, that's LUPINE10 at checkout, to receive 10% off your order. Finally, Daily FaB gameplay is brought to you in part by Hemel from The Bazaar. It has never been more affordable to play in the flesh and blood. Players have been buying the cards they need from Hemel for years. I started buying from him in 2023 and have never found a better deal. The Bazaar's prices are the lowest for singles, full sets, and class sets, including new releases. Pre-order High Seas set bundles now and pre-order singles after spoiler season ends. Pre-orders are available to ship internationally or for in-person pickup at US Nationals in Vegas. Message Hemel on Blue Sky, Discord, email, or Twitter to see what he can do for you. Now, let's jump right into the action. Right at the start, if you're a Jarl player who's looking for a ProQuest winning list and great advice to back up playing it, check out All In Together now on YouTube. He's a personal friend of mine, just started making Jarl content. We'll be expanding into Guardian content as we get more Guardian Mastery Pack and maybe some Valda gameplay, Victor gameplay. Check him out. He's going to teach you how to play Jarl, and that might have potentially helped our opponent here, as this game is going to go very well for us, and very interested to get feedback from all of you if you think that this is an outlier, or if you think that this was just navigated pretty well on my part. Right from the start, we won the die roll. I've chosen to go second. If our Jarl here is playing Count Your Blessings, there is a real risk that they get to just gain some life. Turn 0, arsenal a card, set up for defense on our turn, but if they are not CYB and if they're playing mid-range, then we do want to go second because this is more or less a race, and we especially want them to have to respect our disruption on turn 0, especially our arsenal and hand disruption. So we're going second, and we immediately get paid off because we can see that this Jarl is likely to be mid-range. Now yes, we do see 67 cards in the deck, but a combination of Sledge, Rootbound Trunks, and Crown of Providence makes me think that they are intending to play a bit of a shorter game. If they were on a Count Your Blessings list, I might expect to see a Quick Dodge Flexors, maybe a Coronet Peak in the head slot, just something that says they're going to go a bit slower. The Sledge here stands out to me as kind of an interesting decision. If they were on more of this mid-range plan, I would expect either Summit or Titan's Fist plus Stalagmite, but it is possible that they are just building towards anti-fatigue. Not that that is our game plan, but it can just kind of happen against Assassin. So I do feel like I am rewarded for choosing to go second, and our hand here is okay. Now the fact that we have turn 0 Crumble is especially bad. We're going to give the cheeky good game. We're going to play this one out. Our opponent put the Battle Worn counter on Fiendal Spring Tunic. I don't know that that's the correct play. Slippy definitely relies on Flick Knives at least once in a game to clear out a Clave to make room for a Calicera, but if this game goes long enough, and especially if our Jarl here is playing cards like Winter's Bite, then Spring Tunic could get a lot of value. So how are we sequencing this turn? What do I really want to be doing? Well, I want to play Pain in the Backside and Leave No Witnesses. The downside of Tarantula Toxin here having 2 Claves is that we don't get both halves of Tarantula Toxin, and because Toxin only gives -3 defense to something defending against a card with Stealth, we can't use it to push Leave No Witnesses through. So what I think I want to do with this hand is send Pain in the Backside for 3 go again, pitch Prognosis into a Clave, Tarantula Toxin the Clave, get it up to 4 power, and then send Leave No Witnesses. It is the best way for us to convert our hand. We ditch our arsenal in case of Command and Conquer, or, I don't know, Disable, I guess is a card that Jarl could be playing. Sending the Prognosis first says that we are going to get value out of our Tarantula Toxin this way, depending on how Jarl blocks it. If they put Nerves of Steel in front of Prognosis, we get to Tarantula Toxin it down to 0. If they put Gauntlets of Boreal Domain in front of the Prognosis, we would get to Tarantula Toxin that down to 0, and the way that Tarantula Toxin, or Shred, interacts with Temper is that it breaks the Temper equipment. The combat chain closes, the Temper equipment sees that it has 0 block value and is destroyed before its armor can reset at the end of the turn. So we actually do get some pretty good value off of that Prognosis Toxin. We get a red Rootbound Carapace from Jarl, which he cannot decompose. So yes, it puts an Earth card in Jarl's graveyard, but it does not let him decompose, which is going to keep him off of Fellings and Plow Unders for longer, or at least from powered up Fellings and Plows. Now, if we weren't already sure that our Jarl was playing mid-range, the fact that this Pummel is in the deck says that he definitely is, not a card that you usually see in Count Your Blessings lists. And Jarl here giving us 2 cards from hand rather than Crown of Providence to sink the arsenal makes a lot of sense, but I'm happy about this. We get all of the cards from Jarl. The Crumble to Eternity Dominate is not going to get any value. Now we do need to pave through this Winter's Bite, so let's take a look at our hand and see what we're intending to do. We can just play Art of Desire Body, Infect, Arsenal Codex, Pass. That seems like the best thing to do with this hand, which means that I'm going to pitch Justinic to pay for the 1 from Winter's Bite. I would have to check my opponent's graveyard, but I am pretty sure at this point in the game Jarl does not have any attacks in graveyard, which is what we're seeing here. So Codex Leave No Witnesses doesn't actually do anything, aside from giving Jarl a Frailty, giving us a Ponder, and letting us send forward Leave No Witnesses. We really want to be disrupting Jarl in some way, forcing him to defend his arsenal, and so far he doesn't have to do that. We get Arctic Incarcerated. Thankfully we do have a yellow to pay for this, and we're going to have Tunic up. So let's take a look at our hand, decide what we want to do here. We can play Savor Bloodshed. We'll have to pay 3 for it, so we can pitch Spreading Plague and or Weaver Spinneret. We can then use Tunic Justinic to attack with a Hunter's Clave for 5 go again on hit mark. Jarl has done us a favor by arsenaling a card, meaning that our Leave No Witnesses does now threaten some sort of disruption that Jarl will have to deal with, whether it be blocking from hand or using Crown of Providence. Pitching the Justinic instead, I mean, this really doesn't matter, right? We're going to have to pitch one of these 2 reds in hand. Also forgot to mention, Savor Bloodshed will threaten to draw a card because Jarl is marked. We can decide if we want to use Flick Knives here to guaranteed get a draw. There are a number of cards in our deck that just don't do anything if we draw here, because we are going to play Codex of Frailty. And so if we draw Justinic, an attack reaction, anything like that, we just another Codex. Well, another Codex we could pitch to Clave, but if we drew a red reaction, we just can't play it here. Command and Conquer is a card that we just can't play. But there are also a number of cards that we could draw that just get value here. We could draw blue that pitches for Clave. We could draw a yellow that pitches for Clave. We could draw an attack with Stealth that has go again. So I think Claving in response to the Seeds of Tomorrow is a good line. We will also force Jarl to have Prevention if he does want to deal with this draw, rather have more Prevention if he wants to deal with this draw. It also opens up a Dagger slot to get value out of Upsticks and Run or Weaver Spinneret. Now, worst case scenario, we do draw a card that we just can't play, cannot get rid of before we Codex. Making the decision here to just take the Intellect penalty does make sense, because Jarl has cleared the arsenal with Sieves of Tomorrow, so Codex is no longer valuable. We would discard this E-Strike, get a Leave No Witnesses. Jarl doesn't have any attacks, so he doesn't have to deal with the Codex at all. So just an unfortunate draw and an unfortunate use of Flick Knives there. You know, unfortunate in that it didn't work, but it was really the best thing that we could do in that instance. Now, unfortunately, Jarl has some space to play a Frozen to Death, fuse it with Crumble to Eternity, and he is going to be able to destroy our Tunic. So now having to play through a Frostbite, Jarl has arsenaled that Crumble to Eternity, so he can crown it away, or he doesn't, and now he's open to getting Leave No Witnessed. So what do we do with this hand? We can send E-Strike, bottoming E-Strike, pitching Shred, 5 go again, then send Infect, play Codex, Leave No Witnesses, we float a resource, which at least lets us play through, I don't know, really nothing. Never bad to float a resource, but we can't really use it. Just given what we're doing here, let's see, are we going to E-Strike for 7, or are we going to E-Strike for 5 Codex? I would like to 5 go again Codex. I think this play makes less sense because I would like to give Jarl the option of blocking my E-Strike before I play Infect. Now, in hindsight, it works really well because we get to pitch Shred to deal with Blizzard, and then we get to pitch E-Strike to pay through the Frostbite when we Codex. So this line actually works pretty well, but in hindsight, I think this was wrong. I wanted to lead with the card that doesn't have an on-hit, and then play the card that does have an on-hit. Now that said, we just played through a Blizzard, so maybe this worked out pretty well. Let's see if Jarl wants to give us 2 cards from hand or just crown away that Crumble to Eternity, which he decides to do. He'll be playing with 4 cards here. We're going to deal 2 damage. We will banish the top card of Jarl's deck for as much as that probably doesn't matter. More importantly, we're going to get our Ponder effect at the end of the turn. Banishing a Pulse of Isenloft, pretty good. I don't mind that. Oh, and Jarl actually sinks a card from hand rather than the arsenal. So we instead get 2 cards with our Leave No Witnesses. They're both blue, we don't get silver. But interesting that Jarl used the crown to fix the hand rather than save the arsenal and just get 4 cards this turn. That's pretty interesting. We draw into a Razor's Edge, which is fine. Definitely playable out of arsenal if we find another Codex. Not super playable with this hand, but we do get to take an interesting line here using this blue. We can play Up Sticks and Run, retrieve our Codex, retrieve our Clave, attack with the Clave. That doesn't seem very good because we are going to then lose the value from our Orb Weaver Spinneret. So what we actually do with this hand is play Orb Weaver Spinneret, make a Calicera, play Up Sticks and Run, attack with Hunter's Clave for 5 go again, attack with Calicera for 4 go again, and then play Leave No Witnesses, and we're just going to sit on our Razor's Edge in Arsenal. We could also play Up Sticks, play Spinneret, send Clave for 9 go again, and then Calicera for 1 go again, Leave No Witnesses, and that seems like it's probably a better option. It doesn't give Jarl an easy defense reaction block on our Calicera. I think 9 with Clave is going to be harder for him to deal with, and maybe he overreacts just thinking that we're going to have a Savor Bloodshed or take up the Mantle, something that we really do care about him being marked. Sending the Bonds of Agony, okay, let's not do that. Instead of sending Bonds for 4 go again, this is kind of interesting. I don't love this play, because what am I doing with the Up Sticks and Run? Just gonna pitch it for Calicera, I guess? This seems worse to me than just sending Dagger for 9, Dagger for 1, Leave No Witnesses. Yeah, I don't like this play very much at all. See how Jarl wants to actually decide to block this. Does he choose to give us 2 Spinal Crushes? I mean, the upside of sending the bonds here is that we are baiting blocks, but at the same time, we're just losing value. We're sending less value this turn. Right, doing the Razor's Edge Flick Knives Snapdragon. It's an interesting line. It does get blown out by literally any defense reaction, but it turns out that we don't have to deal with that. Thinking about how we are going to interact with Jarl's hand here. If we take the Crumble to Eternity, we remove it from Jarl's hand. We already have one in Banish. There is one in Graveyard, so we're only getting 1 card. We're not dealing significant deck damage. But what this does for us is we send the Leave No Witnesses, and Jarl needs to give us 2 pieces of equipment and Winter's Bite to protect the arsenal. If we take Winter's Bite, then Jarl's Crackback is less good, but he only has to give us a card and 1 piece of armor to protect the arsenal. I think that taking Crumble here is just better than taking the Winter's Bite, and as I recall, I'm about to undo this decision and choose to take the Crumble instead, just because this is more threatening. Do I think the bonds line here is correct? In hindsight, yeah, because it hit, but there's also just a really strong possibility that Jarl has a defense reaction to pay for this, and suddenly we're dealing less damage, we have fewer resources available because we have given up our Razor's Edge. I do think that, yes, the upsticks here is going to go well on our arsenal, but that turn would have been better, been more consistent, more reliable if we don't go for the bonds play. We hit a Spinal Crush off the top and a Pummel from Arsenal, which is pretty good. We have to deal with this Winter's Bite that we knew was coming. So we not only need to pitch a card to pay for it, but we are then going to need to pitch into Frostbite at the start of our next turn to do anything. What do we have in our arsenal? We have an Upsticks. I think that the pitch here is going to be just a Nick. Our turn is going to be play Upsticks, pitch Double Trouble to pay for it, through the Frostbite as well as the Retrieve. We will float a resource. We can send Calicera for 5 Go Again into Prognosis, Arsenal, Leave No Witnesses. That seems like a reasonable play. Just because we do have to pay through this, interesting, going for the Justinic Prognosis line, which I guess means that I'm going to pay for this. It's going to be Prognosis for 6, which gets blocked. We don't need to deal with that now. We play Upsticks and run, pay 1 to retrieve our Clave, and then send the Calicera for 5. It was a reasonable turn. I think that was good. Definitely threatening more damage and forcing blocks out of Jarl, which is great for us. Interesting blocks out of Jarl. I think that him just playing the Arctic Incarceration was likely the better line. We have a Justinic in our arsenal, which we cannot get value with on this turn, but we can play. I suppose we could get value out of it if we wanted to be risky, assuming that Jarl doesn't have prevention. We get to play Upsticks and run, send Kiss of Death for 7 Go Again. We then have the option to Flick Knives, take up the Mantle, Justinic. What that doesn't do for us is let us keep our Upsticks and run value because it isn't a buff, it's a starting point. So the Kiss of Death for 7, if my understanding is correct, if we take up into bonds, would revert back to 1 power. It's effectively just a value loss on the Upsticks. The thing is, if we do get prevented and we are unable to mark Jarl, then the Upsticks value is kind of mitigated. But it is an interesting line. So if we do the Kiss of Death first, what we are intending to do is flick Clave, mark Jarl, play Take Up the Mantle into Bonds of Agony, then play Justinic, which will get us up to 12 damage on the prognosis. Take a card away from Jarl. What we can then do is break the chain, play up sticks and run, retrieve our Clave and send Calicera for 5. That seems reasonable, but what happens if Jarl has the prevention? Then we Kiss of Death, we flick, we get prevented, we play, take up the mantle, bringing Kiss up to 5. We can break chain, play up sticks, retrieve our Clave, send Calicera for 5. That seems good. We lose out on the value of Kiss of Death Flick, but we were going to lose out on that value anyway by transforming Kiss into something else. So that is the line that I like. I like taking the risky bonds line where we do have a backup plan if it doesn't work. But if it does work, it's just insane value. We get to bonds for 12, take a card away from Jarl, have a high damage follow-up. Either way, we're getting our Clave back. Yeah, that seems like easily the best line. If it works, it's great. And if it doesn't work, we have a fallback plan. Instead, choosing to send Kiss for 7 go again. Let's see what I decide to do with this. Just because bondsing here is good, it will work, but we're losing that up sticks value. And I think that losing the up sticks value here is just objectively wrong. This line just seems terrible, so what I was hoping for is that Jarl would react to the Kiss of Death and held the shred for that, but that's just much worse. This line is just not good. We aren't taking cards from Jarl, we aren't prompting him to make mistakes, we aren't getting to play our Justinic here. Yeah, I don't particularly care for this line. Yes, we did get a card away from him, but we didn't push very much damage. That was not good. Now, this hand is very strong, assuming that we get to keep our arsenal, which we don't. We will still get an active bonds this turn. We get to send Kiss of Death, Tarantula Toxin it up to 6 go again. We have to hold the Tarantula Toxin if we want to bonds. And see, this is the problem with not having used our Justinic on that last turn, is now we're sort of in a weird spot. So we're going to Kiss of Death for 3 go again. Not Tarantula Toxin it. We are then going to play Bonds of Agony with the intention of Tarantula Toxin, Razor's Edge, flicking the Kiss of Death, so we'll get to keep both of our daggers, bringing the bonds up to 7, and hopefully Jarl puts something in front of it so that we actually get some value out of Tarantula Toxin, which I'd have to read the card. We might not even be able to play it if we don't have a target. So firing it off here, and Razor's edging up to 9. If Jarl doesn't have a reaction, we'll put him down to 2, and now he is just dead because we get to dagger, dagger, flick. So these lines worked out, and I'm glad that I rewatched this game because I think that I punted quite a few times, and if the Jarl had drawn a Felling or an Oaken Old or that Plow Under earlier, or been able to do Icequake Sledge, like anything, Icequake Frostfang, anything, that we are in trouble. It's a combination of this game working out well for us just in what we drew and what Jarl didn't draw, but I also think that Slippy may be better off in this matchup than I expected, based on the fact that Guardian needs to keep these big hands of cards in order to put these big disruptive turns together, right? Icequake Frostfang is a 3-card hand. Icequake Sledge is a 3-card hand. Even just Frostfang on its own is a 2-card hand. And if we are able to pressure Guardian with on-hits and hand disruption, then maybe he just can't put it together. So this will take more testing. Very eager to get All In Together Now's feedback on this game. I told him ahead of time that I was going to post it, and that it would also be a great time for me to promote his channel. If you're a Guardian player, you like Jarl, and you like what Evalda has in store, maybe you think that Victor is going to get some help in High Seas, then be sure to drop a sub on All In Together Now for more Guardian content and learn how to play Guardian, because I certainly don't know how to. I just play Slippy and manage to put bonds turns together. I hope you enjoyed this game. I hope you learned something from it. I certainly did, just on evaluating the value of assassin hands and how to sequence and how to make sure that I have fallback plans if the main plan doesn't work. But if you did like this or learn something, be sure to flick that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free, it helps me out a lot. I have a Blue Sky, a Discord, and a Patreon, links to which are in the video description below. Until the next time I see you on Daily FaB Gameplay, take care.